What does the older generation not understand about today's job market? It's much more competitive and much less rewarding. You don't owe the company you work for with extra unpaid hours or your loyalty and submissiveness, since you aren't rewarded for that anymore. At least certainly not like they used to. Loyalty isn't the name of the game anymore. Flexibility is. You get a better opportunity at another company? Take it. This is why job hopping is much more common now. Not because of entitled youths, just because loyalty just isn't effective anymore. My company gave me a 0.5%, you read that right, 0.5%. I told my manager I quit. He got mad at me. I told him 0.5% is just pissing in my face and calling it rain. They couldn't train anyone else, so he gave me a bigger raise so they didn't lose me. I told him he needed to talk to HR and sort it out because we were a separate department from sales, which is where they were losing money. The big company model ends up punishing people for the shortcomings of others rather than rewarding individuals. I like my job, but yeah, I have resumes circulating constantly. I have worked here for 3 years and I have taken maybe 5 job interviews. It's just constantly being open to something new. It's always better to move to a new company and get a raise that way than to wait for the awkward realization that the place you work is trying to keep you on as cheaply as possible. My dad was telling me how my friends must be really lazy if they haven't found Christmas break jobs. I tried to explain that we live in a college town area, near a big city, and that all the Christmas work, what little there is to begin with, why hire seasonal employees when you already have enough staff, is already taken by October by all the college kids who already live in the area. Not only that, but trying to get a job back home when you're cities or even states away is really hard. How do you show up for an interview if you're across the country? But he just didn't get it. How much people have been taken out of the equation in job searches? A lot of these online application portals are automated. It's not a person reviewing your application first. It's an algorithm scanning your resume and cover letter for key terms and assessing your responses to any additional questions in the application. Tell the computer what it wants to hear, and you might get to the human review pile. But if you don't, it will reject you regardless of your qualifications. Fun fact, some employers are required to post job listings, even if the position has been filled before the listing is even created. My mom works for a school district. They have this requirement. Since it's a public school job, she gets state benefits, etc. I don't know if it's a company policy or a law, but they either shift people around to fill from within, or hire someone's family member instantly when a position opens, but they're still required to post the job and pretend it's available, except nobody who applies externally gets called. Pretty sad, and a good demonstration of how the job market is in the USA currently. We're apparently at record lows for unemployment. To me, that means everyone's family members stepped up their efforts to help each other out. A lot of the hiring process is done online, so the idea that you can just walk into an office and hand in a resume is outdated for many positions. There are also a lot more people in the job market who are highly educated. Having a master's degree now is like having a bachelor's degree in the 1960s. If you want to stand out from other applicants, it's no longer enough just to have a college degree. Switching jobs has become more common than ever before. Spending your whole career with a single company is no longer a realistic goal for many people. That it largely doesn't function like it did in their day. A lot of 50-somethings look down on 20-somethings because of how easy it is to get stuck. I know a guy in his 50s who's an engineer today. Never went to school or got any certs or degrees. He started as a teen janitor for their firm and worked really hard every day. His work ethic was noticed and he eventually moved up and up and up in the company until he was an engineer. They taught him everything about the trade based on his work ethic and interest alone. That just simply doesn't happen today. People do that nowadays, and they might land in middle management working for the McDonald's Corporation, maybe. I don't know. It seems that they work really hard in an entry-level job to get promotions that one day become a career world is over in this country, but none of the older folks really see that, and just tell you you're making excuses. Every generation says this shit about the one that came before it, but it really is a lot harder to get by today. In my experience, the over 75 crowd frequently assumes any college degree will get you a great job. In addition, due to retirement, they are unaware of the current atmosphere of nasty competitive behavior, a lack of civility in the workplace, and employers not always giving appropriate compensation for expected duties. I really wish this was passed down better to the future students of America, since there's so many people who graduate a degree without demand and then end up in some minimum wage job they could have worked without it. Seen too many people fall for the "if you get a degree, it'll all be okay" line. What they don't always say is that what degree really matters, and trade schools can easily lead to earning more money than having a degree deepening. 5-7 years experience needed for an entry-level job. I once saw a job opening for one of those escape room job at $13 an hour. And on that they required a bachelor's degree. It said preferred, but still. For what? I need 4 years of college to reset locks? I applied to an airplane small parts manufacturer and they wanted interns with degrees and 5 years experience minimum in aviation engineering. It paid minimum wage and the internship would only last 6 months with no guarantee of hiring afterwards. I even applied to a Foot Locker at my local mall and they required at least 1 year in the fashion industry for the cashier position. That you will not hear from a rejection, almost ever. And it's super difficult to get an interview, whether you're in work or not. I've probably applied for a good couple hundred jobs in the past year or so. I received maybe 1 or 2 rejection emails, and only got 3 interviews, one of which ended up being door-to-door sales. I never got to courtesy the interview didn't work out because of, or you didn't get the position because. Not a single phone call or email. You'd think after all the hoops you jump through and applications you filled out you would get something. Nope. Really degrading. You got a low salary offer because women don't know how to negotiate. No dad, I got the low salary offer because widespread labor unions are dead. HR doesn't know jack shit about any of the positions they are hiring for and uses an outdated formula to calculate the compensation offer. The massive volume of competition from other debt-riddled college grads willing to take anything above $8 an hour in their field, and a leadership that just wants breathing human beings to fill in the slots regardless of competency. Although if they could figure out how to get the corpses in the morgue to follow AORN standards, I'm sure they'd go that route as well. They want us to work like we have a pension and loyalty to the company, but pay us like we're the high school senior just saving up for prom by taking a weekend gig at Arby's. Your business runs on technology. The entire board and C-suite could probably fucking vanish for a week with no perceptible impact on the bottom line, but turning off the wrong server for 10 minutes could have a very noticeable impact. Think about that for a minute the next time you think technology is just a tool your business uses. At an old job of mine, they did one of those bullshit employee satisfaction survey to act like they care. There was an open-ended question of what is the biggest thing that you feel is holding the company back. People overwhelmingly said our outdated technology. It actually got up to the CEO, an old white man, and he actually responded, since he was surprised that an open-ended question could do overwhelmingly have the same answer. He laughed and said, "You young people just want all the fancy new tools. I disagree and think our technology is fine. You fucker. You don't even know what technology we use." And when a client, 60 years old, asks me to do something and I can't since our technology will not allow it, I'm not being a young person who wants fancy tools. I quit that job a few months later. Getting a good livable wage job isn't as easy as it used to be. I've got a lot of family members who graduated high school and got a job in the oil fields or automotive industry making what is now the equivalent of like $70K. Straight out of high school. They made more money and everything cost less. You could buy a brand new souped up muscle car in the 60s for the equivalent of a fucking Chevy Malibu today. My dad told me back in my day, 70s, $20 got you a full tank of gas and a nice date with a lady. Today it covers your neat bourbon and a glass of wine. That 18-year-olds can't live off the types of jobs that are available to them. People keep asking me how long I'm going to let my 18-year-old live with me. They don't get that it's basically impossible for an 18-year-old to be on their own with a part-time minimum wage job. He helps with rent and bills, and honestly I know people living with their parents in their late 20s and they have good jobs, but housing and the cost of living are still out of reach, and it makes more sense for a lot of people. A college degree is not the only road to a good paying job, and for many careers, it's actively a step in the wrong direction. Adjusted for inflation, it is not the reasonable expectation it was in the 70s to work part-time and pay for a university education while you attend, and so college is an option that needs to be weighed more carefully for today's students. The situation is different for families who were able to set aside a college fund for their child. Social media is important. It needs to reflect a person they won't be ashamed for their company to be associated with, and if it's blank, some will assume you have something to hide. Policing your image isn't as simple as wearing something nice to the interview or having a professional customer service persona. With the advent of the internet, the number of people applying for the same job you are is greater than if the internet weren't a part of the picture. To add to that, many places will actively consider you a poor follower of directions if you walk in and ask for an application instead of following the instructions on their website and applying. Couple these things together with the fact that resumes are often parsed with computer software now to spit out easily digestible statistics, and you can guarantee that the majority of hiring managers who've handled your applications have probably never actually read your resume. The trade-off is that it's easier to apply for every job within a 50-mile radius faster than ever before. Entry-level shift-based work often comes with getting little or no shifts until enough people above you leave or are fired, which can take months. This is not a job you can support yourself on. A higher hourly wage won't do you much good if you average less than 10 hours a week. People are continuing to work later in life, sometimes for far less wage than their experience is worth. This hurts growth because someone with greater experience is sometimes working for entry-level wages without benefits, lowering the bar as a whole. Many places have constant recruitment for reasons that benefit their company, even if they are not actually looking to hire anyone. The "you're overqualified" response for entry-level versus the "you lack the requisite experience" response for mid-level positions is a real problem. Getting no response at all is also a real problem. Anecdotal success stories about being a dropout and getting your foot in the door at a major company, learning the ropes, and making a career out of it are a dime a dozen, but so are many other stories that you don't see in the news or people writing books about, because they aren't surprising or the exception to the rule. With all of that in mind, companies don't invest in their employees as much as they used to, and have progressively steeper and more vague job requirements. More positions have job duties tacked on after the hiring process that have nothing to do with what was discussed, with no additional compensation. There are also additional steps that didn't used to exist, such as long personality assessments. I could probably keep going, but I think most of it's pretty clear. Technology doesn't just evolve each year, it does so more rapidly than it did before, and as it continues to do so, it will require more effort to keep your personal knowledge of things up to date. People who don't care to keep their personal knowledge up to date are probably going to have the wrong idea about some stuff, and no one can really do much of anything about that aside from themselves. There is one thing that's still very true, though: who you know is more important than what you know. Even people who are my age don't even understand it. First off, the idea that if you work hard, make yourself invaluable to the company, and garner a positive reputation, you are set for life. Totally not true. If you work hard, make yourself invaluable, and garner a positive reputation, they take advantage of it and keep turning the thumbscrews to the torture device until you have too much to handle and start backsliding, when in reality you're just saddled with too much shit to do with too much complexity for one man to handle, and reaching out for assistance or help falls on deaf ears because the people who put you in that position think you'll come out just fine in the end despite all of your complaining. And when it's too late and the big mistake is inevitable, of course all the blame falls squarely on you, no matter how many action plans you put in place. Secondly, the idea that the company actually gives a shit is total shit. They just play that feel good crap because my generation was raised on positive reinforcement, so it's just their way of getting more out of you by pretending that you are special and important, each and every one of you. To everyone outside your little department where you work, you are just a number. HR does not care. The management does not care. The janitors don't care. The vendors don't care. Nobody cares. The people that seem to care have some alternative motive. Whether that's getting away from their present work environment, taking over your job, undermining any social networking you do because their social picture is smaller than yours. The company only cares about the bottom line, and every department only cares about their own ass, both collectively and personally. HR does not give a crap what solutions oriented or 7 Sigma means. They just don't want the hiring managers complaining. Everyone's trying to keep their managers happy, and that goes up the chain to the top, where the clueless VPs, CEOs, and other high-up executives don't want someone interrupting their golf game, or everyone just might get fired. I think some of the older generation don't get the concept of the flexibility of degrees training. Whereas back in the day you might have gotten a specific degree to do one specific thing until you retire, now I see way more graduates applying their training in creative ways to a broader selection of industries. While this might be necessary because of the job market, I also think it's somewhat of a good thing because it leads to more diverse ideas and solutions in workplaces. For me, it also gave me the freedom to look for places to apply my training and skills without entering an academic career that I no longer felt suited me. For example, 20 years ago most of the people in my field had some form of legal background or, maybe, psychology. Currently, the backgrounds of people in my workplace include those plus criminology, business, social work, public policy, anthropology and sociology, and folks with no degrees who work their way up through admin or other paths. It's pretty accepted that this variety of backgrounds totally works in our favor. However, trying to explain to my parents' friends that I have a background in anthropology and am doing well but don't work in a museum or university seems like a lost cause. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.